Hi guys, it's Teresa. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to share with you some of my favorite completed series that I've read. If you haven't yet seen my recent video where I share with you all of my completed series that I've read from start to finish and own completely, then I will make sure to link that video in the cards and in the description. But today, basically, I'm just focusing on those that are definitely standouts to me, that I really love, that I wholeheartedly recommend. But before we get started, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I upload every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. And now, without further ado, let's jump into the video. These are not in any way, shape, or form like a ranking list or anything like that. I don't think I could ever rank these books, but just series that I really recommend you check out if you're a fan of series or just a fan of good books in general. So aside from maybe two, these are all fantasy series, so I thought I'd start with the non-fantasy and then go to the fantasy because that's definitely the largest chunk of them. So let's start with a sci-fi dystopian sort of series, and that is the Red Rising trilogy by Pierce Brown. These are Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star, and there's I guess a follow-up trilogy that's currently coming out as well, so there will be enough reading material if you're enjoying this series. This is set in a world with a very strictly stratified society. We have people that are, for example, reds that do the menial work, and then the golds that rule the society, and we follow a boy called Darren, who is a red, but by a rebel organization, he is asked to basically undergo certain alterations to his body to take part in a revolution and basically become a gold and infiltrate their stratosphere and sort of try and change society from within and wreak havoc, and it is phenomenal. I absolutely love this series. I have not yet read the fourth book and beyond, but I cannot wait. I think it's so well written. It is so fun. It is just, it gives you everything you want from a series like this. Despite the premise being a little bit chewed out, I think that this book does a very good job of like taking that premise and like the derivative nature of that premise and like going into a completely new direction and taking it to places that other series that deal with a similar premise have not gone before. So I 100% recommend at least checking out Red Rising. The first book is definitely the one that shows the most similarities to other books like The Hunger Games or Divergent, but at the same time, I think it just does a very good job of like setting up the world and like introducing you to the characters, and the way it goes from there, like Golden Sun is probably my favorite in the series so far, so yeah. Definitely check it out. Don't miss it. It's really good. The second trilogy that is not fantasy is also more sci-fi dystopian, and that is the Wayward Pines trilogy by Blake Crouch. These are technically classified as thrillers, but I don't know if you will call them a thriller. I guess there's thriller elements to it, but not really. I don't think that that's like the main focus of the book, so don't go into these like thinking they're like a psychological thriller or anything like that. I also don't think you could make a series out of psychological thrillers necessarily, but that's a different story. In this series, we follow a Secret Service agent called Ethan Burke, who is given the mission to travel to a very small town called Wayward Pines, where some colleagues of his have recently disappeared, and he's supposed to investigate. And he goes to the town, and it's very strange instantly. The people are very hostile towards him and refuse to really help him, and the more his time he spends there, the more he realizes or like notices how weird these people are being, and it seems like in the end he cannot actually leave the town anymore. And you know, it's super suspenseful. I think it's super well done from start to finish. It's really a well-written story, extremely suspenseful, as I said. Definitely not something that you're going to be able to predict, I guess, these types of twists and turns that are happening as soon as we realize what's happening in this world. You know, it's just super messed up, but I absolutely loved it. I highly recommend you check it out, at least the first book, just so that you know like what is even happening in this town, which is probably the biggest mystery of all. But even after that is cleared up, I still felt like the sequels managed to keep up a sense of suspense and like keep other things hidden from you that you still wanted to know what was happening in that specific. Jesus Christ. What was that? Oh my god. What? Oh my god. Oh my god. I think I just had a heart attack. Okay. You know, that's what happens when you talk about suspenseful books and then like there's a weird noise in the back. I still don't know. Something fell, but it just scared the shit out of me. I am a weak ass bitch. Okay. I have no idea what I was saying. Basically, the sequels are just as good. I think the third is a little less strong, I guess. But, you know, the way it ended was fine. It was good. I liked it. Definitely check it out. And now we're already in the realm of fantasies, and that's where we're gonna stay. The first series is the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. The first book is called Assassin's Apprentice, then we have Royal Assassin, and finally Assassin's Quest. This book follows a royal bastard called Fitz, who is basically taken on by the court to train to become an assassin and thereby be an asset, I guess, to his family that have never really owned up to him, that haven't like claimed him, I guess, as their family. But in this position of assassin, he obviously gets to go on a lot of different adventures, and he has to try and like save the kingdom in various different ways. He also discovers that he might have powers in a sense where he can bond with animals, which is just really, really cool because there's a lot of different like loyal dog companions in these books, which is always a big plus for me. Some of them end up dying, which is not so fun for me because I love dogs, and literally dog deaths are probably sadder to me than human deaths a lot of the times. But, you know, it is what it is. These books are really good, I think. The world is really well constructed. I love the way that the characters just really come to life, and I really, really felt like they were real people. I really loved all of them, especially Fitz. I think the ending of this particular trilogy wasn't super, super strong with Assassin's Quest. I think that was a 3-star, whereas the other two were both like 4 or 5 stars. It was a little bit of a meh kind of ending, and the book itself is super huge, and which I don't think was necessary, actually. But overall, I really highly recommend this. I know everybody recommends the series because it's just that good, and if you like fantasies with strong characters and strong world building and just like in general the sense of like absorbing it completely, I highly recommend this one. Almost exactly the same could be said for the next series I want to recommend to you, because that is the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. There is a sequel trilogy to this, but it follows different characters and it's set in the future. So again, I'm counting this as its separate thing. So this series consists of the Final Empire, the Well of Ascension, and the Hero of Ages. And it's set in a world with a very, very interesting magic system. I'm sure you've all heard of it before. Basically, the magic wielders are consuming metals, different metals, and based off which metal they're like have an affinity for, they can use that metal, burn that metal to enhance their powers in some way, shape, or form. And for example, a Mistborn is somebody who can use all metals, which is very, very rare. And that is the main character, I guess, that we follow in this book, or one of the main characters. So basically, this is just a very, very elaborate, well thought out fantasy world with a ruler to overthrow and friends to protect and battles to wield and powers to discover, and all around it's just really well written. Again, very engaging, very complex, interesting, lovable, realistic characters, and overall just super, super engaging to the point where, you know, I binge read the first 2 books in probably like a week, which considering their length is probably unhealthy. And it did cause me a little bit of a reading slump with the series, leading me to not read the 3rd book for a whole year after that. But you know, sometimes you just gotta binge read those series, and Mistborn is very susceptible to that, I think, just because it's so good. The next few series are now pretty much all YA, but I feel like a kind of YA that's not as, you know, basic, generic, copy and paste, tropey type of YA. A lot of these definitely do have tropey elements, but I still think these are one of the better better made YA books and series. So let's start with my probably favorite of these, and that is the Dark Days series, or Lady Helen series by Alison Goodman. The first book is called The Dark Days Club, then we have The Dark Days Pact, and finally The Dark Days Deceit. These books are set in the 1800s in London or in Britain, and we follow a young lady called Lady Helen who discovers that she has powers to hunt demons, and so she has to like use those in like a Victorian, is that Victorian age? I think so. In the Victorian times in Britain, and obviously handle the societal expectations and pressure while trying to be kind of a very empowered fighter person. And you know, people have compared this book to a mixture of the Infernal Devices and Persuasion, and I think it's pretty accurate, except that Infernal Devices is infinitely worse than this. Not Persuasion. Pride and Prejudice, but it's also a Jane Austen novel, so I guess, you know, I think they just were trying to say Jane Austen books. I think it's really, really well written. The romance in it is very slow burning, and I think almost too slow burning. I felt like the you know, resolution at the end is a little lackluster. Not lackluster, but like just not giving you enough of what you were pining for. But overall, I really like it, really like the characters. It's definitely suspenseful and fun and just really an easy, fun read, so I really recommend it if that's what you're looking for. Then I have the Stolen Songbird trilogy by Danielle L. Jensen, consisting of Stolen Songbird, Hidden Huntress, and Warrior Witch. These books are also set in like a historical time, kind of like a medieval time, I guess. No, I'm actually not sure, but they're not set in a modern time. In this series, we follow a young girl called Cecile, who is abducted and brought to a troll kingdom that has been buried under a mountain by a curse. And because it is prophesied that she's the one, if she marries like the prince of the trolls, I guess, that she will lift the curse. So they get married and nothing happens. And they hate each other. So it's one of these like really, really fun fantasies where there's magic and there's fairy tale creatures, love to hate, romance, and political intrigues as well that come more to the forefront in the sequels, and it's just so good. I liked it so much. I read the first two books twice so far, or 3 times. I think I might have read the first one 3 times already because I just love it so much. It's my favorite kind of romance trope, this like hate to love, and it is done perfectly in this book. I think a lot of the times the authors get really confused by this, or not confused, but like, yeah, maybe confused by this actually contradictory thing that they have to do, because they have to create a situation where it's usually the guy is like sort of evil somehow, and he has to be evil for the hate or the like dislike on the girl's part to be like justified, but at the same time he can't be evil enough because eventually they do have to fall in love, and then when you still have the like evil things you did in the back of your mind, you know, it doesn't really work out. I think the hate to love romance trope is very difficult to do, and when authors do it right, like there's not enough credit given, so I just want to make it clear, it's very rare, in my opinion, that is done right. And in this book, it's done right. It works so well. I feel like the author takes a very skillful way to solve this conundrum, and I love it. I think it's really well done, and I'm just obsessed with it. So, read it. Then I have the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Laini Taylor, consisting of Daughter of Smoke and Bone, Days of Blood and Starlight, and Dreams of Gods and Monsters. These books are, again, I think a very different and very well done YA fantasy. These books are set in Prague, and we follow a girl called Karu, who is different. Of course, she's different. She has like contact with these types of monsters that have raised her, and they're part of her family, if I remember correctly. It's been forever since I've read these books, just as a side note. And it turns into a story of like really massive scope and like involving different worlds, involving a fight between races, and just this like animosity that needs to be resolved between like angels and chimera that are basically have been fighting each other. I think they're called chimera. Fighting each other for centuries. And it involves a forbidden love between one and the other. It's just so good. Actually, I think I've just realized that I should probably reread these books because it's been too long since I have read them. I just love them. I think Laini Taylor's writing style is super fantastic. It's very whimsical at times and just beautiful and very original and unique, and I absolutely love that. And again, despite the fact that I've partially forgotten the story, I just remember loving it a lot and being super impressed by the way that the story like went, the directions it took, and the revelations it brought along with it, and I just loved it. It's essentially a love story, but with a lot of added stuff to it that makes it just so much more impactful, and it's really, really well done. Oh my god, I really want to reread these books now. And the last 2 series I'm going to talk about in conjunction with one another, because there are, again, like sequel trilogies to each other. Well, one is a sequel trilogy to the other. The first is the Black Magician's trilogy by Trudy Canavan. This is also set in a magical, fantastical world, and it follows a girl called Sonia who discovers that she has like a lot of magic within her. She's actually like a peasant, a poor peasant girl, but because she has such strong magic, she gets to go to this esteemed academy and is being trained there alongside usually very like wealthy and higher ranking students that have a lot less magic than her, but that just basically paid to get into this academy and to have their skills honed. Whereas because she's a natural, she gets to go there. And it basically follows her on her travels to discovering magic, kind of playing around with black magic eventually. And it also involves the conflict between different kingdoms and different types of magic. There's fighting, there's love, there's a very tragic relationship that I am still shipping so hard, like 15 years after reading these books. I have not read these for a very long time, I have to say. I don't know how I would gel with these now. I really want to kind of get them in English and see if I still like them, because I just don't want to read them in German, basically. But at the time, I absolutely adored them, and so I think giving them a chance might still be worth it, just because I love them so much back then. Same goes for the sequel trilogy. This is called the Traitor Spy trilogy, and it consists of the Ambassador's Mission, the Rogue, and the Traitor Queen. And that is it for my favorite completed series that I would highly recommend you guys check out, particularly since these all have been completed. It's really easy to just get them and binge read them if they are to your liking. I think that's really, really cool. And I hope you found something new. I know a lot of these are very popular, but maybe you still discovered some that you haven't heard of before and that you are now interested in. That would be awesome. Please let me know if that's the case in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe, like the usual. Come back very soon for another video. I hope to see you then. Have a lovely week. Bye!